What's up? We made it. This is it. Welcome back to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. My name is Adam Vale. I'm a senior editor over at the Koalition. That's with a K, Koalition.com. I'm joined by editor-in-chief of the Koalition, Richard Bailey Jr. What's up, Rich?
What's up, Adam? What's up, listeners and viewers?
And Throwdown Shows, Carlos Romero.
Yo, what's going on?
What's going on is that we did it. We made it. This is it. Season 2, Daryl Dixon. Goodbye, Children. Episode 6. This is it. This was the finale. This is what we've been waiting for. We were super hyped. We were like, this is going to be the butter show. This is going to have all the answers. Everything's going to be fixed. It's going to be great. Maybe not so much, but it threw a lot of curveballs, which is what we want, right? We don't want everything so straightforward. So real quick housekeeping. Thanks again for all the support, people, whether it's over here on YouTube or on Spotify and iTunes and just following us on the audio version of that. Just thanks again for all the support. It's always great that people just sub up and listen to the older episodes, want to play catch up. And that's what we do. We break this down. We've been doing this for years, covering all the Walking Dead IPs out there, all the shows. So if you're into that, just like, subscribe, just jump in on whatever platform of your choice. But thanks again. That's really what I wanted to say, because this is it for another season. So a lot of people have been sticking around, and that's always great. So yeah, real quick for the newbies, we will be discussing spoilers and breaking this down. So if you haven't seen it, go on AMC Plus, go watch it there, or wait for it to air on AMC proper. And you can come back later and see if your thoughts align with ours, because we got some stuff to say about this season, which we'll break down our thoughts, and of course this episode. So with that out of the way, 3, 2, 1, boop. I just need to start with this because there's been a discussion throughout the season. Graybeard is still alive. There we go. The brother has survived, right? We were worried.
He's still alive, and now he's got a partner.
Yeah,
he double won.
He double won. He is definitely, like, that was the issue. And for those who've listened to our episodes, I'm sure at home you're keeping track, and we're seeing the track record of people with color on a lot of these shows, and they tend to go pretty quick. And that was the discussion. We like Graybeard. He's got an awesome beard. It was a great character. He was a leader of that rebel resistance group. I mean, he has a lot going for him, which also all pointed to him dying in a horrible way, because that's usually how they do it. We keep the main characters. Of course, if you're in the main line, the main core, you survive. Ezekiel and other, you survive. But all the other sub ones tend to just dwindle off. And that was the fear with this one. In fact, now I think about it, the way they ended this is rather unique in the Walking Dead universe, because they rarely leave people alive to just linger. Because that's the thing. He's not still part of this whole thing. He's like, I'm going to go peace out and live my own life, which we'll get into. But a big shout out to Graybeard for surviving, for finding love. That was all great. All right, but let's just get into a lot of the meat and potatoes of this episode, because there was filler. Obviously, we got some filler, and many can, if you want to argue with me, go ahead, dump it in the chats. But I felt that, and we've discussed this before, there were too many jumps when it came to who was the, quote unquote, big bad. Right, we talked about this. We had now One Eye Willie, who's now a member of the crew. Right, he was originally looking to kill Daryl for killing, well, he thought killed his brother early on. We still have the crazy girl that actually did kill the guy's brother. Where is she? I don't know, but at least that gets squashed, and we'll get into that point later on. Of course, we had the lady that was in charge of the whole operation that we saw get killed off last episode. It's been changing hands, and then of course Lo Sang, right, who was the cult leader. So we had all these different changes, and now who do we have? We have the assistant who is running the show, and she gets to pull off this. Man, I don't know, that whole segment it didn't fit well with me. First, like I was saying in the opening here, is I don't really recognize her as the big bad, the new boss, because she was always a background character. So it's hard for me to really connect of like, oh, she is going to get this done. She's going to motivate this movement with this group. They're still all on Laurent, bringing him in to do the sacrifice to prove that he is the chosen one. I'm not buying it. I wasn't buying it, and they it's like they still try to. It's like the script. It's like, all right, here's what the villain's supposed to, the mannerisms, and this is what they're supposed to say. Now you do it. Okay, you're dead. Now you pass that on to that person, and then they do it because she's playing the character like the previous one, which I'm blanking on her name, the big bad that died. But it's the same thing. The stone face, the I'm gonna call your bluff. When she did that little segment, which I still don't know how it happened, but it's TV land, where they do the barrier in the street. They stop the mistress of Laurent's dad, that type of thing. As we know, she's the nightclub owner, the bunker, with her second or her friend. The questions, oh, you're gonna help me, we got to get this and that, I'm gonna, I shot your driver and I'm gonna kill your friends. She's like, I don't got any friends, and you don't tell me, I don't care. And what about your life? I don't care, whatever, do what you want. All right, what do you want? It's just like that. I didn't like it, but I guess the show had to figure out a way to bring the two together, right? So what did you guys think of that? Like, how, I mean, there was a lot. I just do a lot at you guys, but it just frustrates me that we're supposed to believe that this new boss in charge is going to get the job done. At no point that I think she would even come close. And then the fact that she knew where this other person was traveling, it would have made more sense if they just went to the bunker, to the club, right? Just go to the club and grab him. Like, yeah, I know your connection with all of this. I've been in the back hearing all of it. That's it. Take her. You're going to give me what I want. Am I like, does it make sense? I don't know. Rich?
So yeah, this character was also a sister, part of the group with Lo Sang. I think what their intention is that they wanted you to basically show you this character's story arc, because in the very beginning, when we were suspicious about what they were doing with Laurent, she was the main one preparing the meals and the drinks for him from the start of the season. So we all figured that maybe she got in Lo Sang's ear and convinced him to do all that he needed to do to make sure that they were able to go through this whole thing with Laurent, that he was very important to their cause. So I think that's the story that they were trying to tell. But I do agree. I did not really find her to be a believable villain whatsoever. The thing about Lo Sang is that character has been conflicted throughout the season, but yet there's episodes when he outright kills another character, and it's like in that last episode, there was no remorse for him whatsoever. He was about ready to kill Daryl, so they absolutely could have done a lot more to really emphasize that she was the one that got into his head and was telling him that we need to do everything we can to. Laurent is the chosen one. We got to do whatever we can to make sure he stays here. So I agree on the critique. And again, I didn't really find her intimidating. When we saw in the previous episode where One-Eye Willie got into the fight with her and threw her up against the wall and she got back up, we knew that was going to happen because you didn't see her get killed. But with Lo Sang, you saw him get taken out. He wasn't coming back.
Yeah. I'll go ahead, Rich.
So, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I completely agree. Obviously, we did get some, tea leaves about how she was the one manipulating Lo Sang a bit. She was the one responsible for the attempted assassination of Daryl when he went to that one raid, but it just wasn't enough for me. It just wasn't enough. If it was Lo Sang as the big bad at the end, if it was Marion at the end to be the final villain at the very end, I felt like that would have been better. But it just doesn't give that much time to establish the character, because she was in the background, wasn't in the foreground like the others were. So you don't have that much of an emotional attachment to that character. It's just someone on the side. So there could have been plenty of ways to develop the character. Unfortunately, they didn't. So we just had to believe that there's a new villain every week. Every week of the show, there's a new villain, a new top dog that's trying to get Laurent, and Laurent is the common factor that's getting everyone to try to take him. But if it had a more established character, like they were doing for Marion or for Losang, I feel like it would have been a little bit, packed a bigger punch throughout this episode. Not to say that the stuff that involved this character was bad. I thought it was pretty good. But just as sort of a bow at the end of the present of what this season's supposed to be, I felt like it didn't pack as big of a punch.
Yeah, I mean, there is a quick fix to this issue, and this is an issue I've had for a while. It's just how the writers for all the Walking Deads, when they put these stories together, they present the big bad. We saw that with the Commonwealth, where they had their governor, and we saw that too in Fear, and then we have Padre and all, but they don't build around it. We need a villain to have an entourage, pretty much like what we got with Negan. Negan had Dwight, he had others in the round table over at his location. So when he fell, there was someone to step in, and then so on and so forth. And then it made sense because we see where they fit their roles. We haven't seen that. It's like we saw that with Mothership proper. Once that governor was done, we're like, oh, we all said, oh, the person that new general guy that we're going to talk about that was capturing everybody. No, it wasn't him either. They didn't really focus. Why? They need to just have, here's the big bet. Let's say this one, Lu Sang, and just show like, here's his number 2 and number 3. These are the crew. If she wasn't just a person that was preparing meals for Laurent, if we knew that she wasn't just whispering, as she actually played a major part in the whole construct of that community, it would have made more sense. I'm like, oh yeah, of course he's down, and you fill in. But they don't do that. They just tunnel vision. Like, here, just focus on him. The same thing with the other woman that passed, that died, that was in charge. It's like, oh, just focus on it. This is it. And then once she was dead, it was like, well, what do we do? What there is nobody. That makes, which in reality, in any of these organizations, there's always a number 2 and a number 3.
They kind of did something, on the last season of The Walking Dead proper. I felt like the mayor wasn't established as well, but she was established way better than she was established way better than this character. But like what you said, there's always the tension and the suspense is brought forward when you have someone, a foil that's sort of on equal footing as the protagonist. We had the governor, we had Negan, we had, I forgot her name from the Whispers, the mom, Alpha. We had Alpha,
and Alpha had Beta.
Yep.
So it's like, all right, we knew if something happened to her, Beta was going to jump in.
But she was, she was a competent villain who, you feared as someone that's rooting for the protagonist. You feared that character, and they established her. You got the backstory and everything. So you had time to live with this character. And at the end, it's satisfying. At the end, the way that she died, it was pretty satisfying. And then it led to the next part. But with this, it was like, okay, there's one character. Okay, there's Mother Janae. And then there's now it's Losange again. He kind of becomes villain, not villain, and then goes in and out. And then it turns to the next person, and that's just I feel like when you establish an arc, you should stick to sort of a singular villain. I don't know if you try to go from 1 to 3 villains in one season, in a 6-episode season, you're doing way too much.
Yeah. And one other point I do want to add, both great points that you both said. The other point I will add is even when they had the transition of power, when Lo Sang became the official villain, you had a whole scene in that previous episode where you saw they freed him and then he was basically given the responsibility to take over. With this other character, you had an officer talking to another character and say, "Oh yes, now she will lead the way on this on our quest to get Laurent." So yeah, it was just like a matter of fact after that comment about this character now taking over. So yeah, I agree.
Oh, and by the way, how are they getting these roles? Lo Sang and the character from this episode, they failed up. They had failures and somehow they became leaders. So it makes it even less believable. Same with Lo Sang. The dude failed to keep Daryl, failed to keep Laurent, failed to keep everything. He got invaded. He had a sanctuary that got invaded, successfully invaded. And somehow he was like, "Oh, the next logical person to lead our group is this guy." Who was a prisoner? Who was a prisoner 30 seconds ago?
Yeah. None of that made sense. And that's the big gripe with this. And hopefully, they listened. I know a lot of these out there, and we have a relationship with them, a nice understanding. So, hey, hopefully, if any of these writers, just think about that. Just think about it. Just build around your villain. That's all we're saying. Build around. Have them have an entourage. So that way it makes more sense when they die, because they will die, because Daryl doesn't play. So let's get into that. So we get another little moment where Daryl and Laurent are spending some time. Daryl finds that guitar. He said it's out of tune. That's fine. Start playing. You can't always get what you want. We know where that's coming from. But what we don't know is, how does he know? Because Laurent, he was born after the fall of man and all of this, and living in a monastery. So I don't know if they were playing that type of music or rock music. He starts naming bands that he was into. I don't know. That didn't go over well with me with that, just because of where they found him. And it was never brought up that he was playing music or doing music or any of that stuff. But whatever, it happens. The whole point of this was to build that connection and for them to come to understanding that, as we had talked about it, and we hinted, it was like, yeah, Daryl's not going. Because if you recall, there's only so much room on this plane. It is a small, rickety plane, and somebody has to stay behind. It can't fit all four. So Daryl obviously picks himself. He's like, all right, you're going to go, and you're going to go to the Commonwealth with Karen. Everybody's going to have a good life. You got to love America. That's the best, right? That's it. And so he's like, oh, that's sad. Am I ever going to see you again? Who knows? Probably not. I mean, before I go any further, we see what they're doing with the show. I see they're really trying, and we'll get into it later on. They're really trying to pull on these heartstrings to build this. I didn't do it. I'm not connected. I'm not invested in this with the boy, especially from what few episodes he didn't even care about going. No, I don't want to go. Right? Until the last second. All right, fine. I'll go. Hey, we're going to America. They still haven't explained the whole I'm the one. We clearly know there is no supernatural element to this. Right, that would have played out already. There's nothing like that. I was hoping that we would see sort of like a Last of Us situation where Laurent would get bit during their fights or doing something and survive, and at least they know that much, that his blood is special, like an Ellie situation, and that maybe this can branch out and do some good for man. Maybe they can make a vaccine or do something from this. And I was hoping they would bring that up, and they don't, and who knows why. But they didn't go into anything. They're just treating him as he's just a regular French kid, wrong place, wrong time, surrounded by horrible people that have their own agendas and stuff. And we need to get him out of here, send him to America. So, were you sad? Did you get a little tear in your eye, Carlos or Rich, when you found out that, oh, Daryl, he's not going to America, he's not going home?
Well, I'll go first. No, I was not in any way sad about that whole scene. We know that Daryl is totally fine with doing things on his own. So it made sense that he would have that conversation with both Laurent and Carol to say, you two go ahead. I'm going to stay here and I will get back to the both of you. Now, I will say this in regards to the sequence of him playing the guitar. We know exactly where they got that from because The Last of Us, Ellie playing the guitar. Yeah. That's immediately what I thought of when he started playing that guitar. Now, I will say I'm okay with them doing that, but what they should have been telling us, and this is what you call long-term storytelling. They should have been telling us throughout this season and last season that Laurent is a music fan. Maybe have him reference as he's talking with Daryl and asking Daryl about music in America and learning about different bands and stuff like that. That is a very easy way that they could rectify that. So then it explains how he knows that song. I do think it was an appropriate song, but this is the last point I want to mention before you go to Carlos. I would expect that emotional bond between a father and a son, not between Daryl and a kid that he likes. I understand he loves the kid, but I feel like the amount of emotion they had in the scene, it works better if this is a father and a son. That's just my opinion. You would know better, Adam, because you are a father, but that's just my thought.
It's yeah, but I also see it as that Daryl realizes that this kid is alone. He doesn't have her. So like even later on when he's talking to Ash and Ash was like, oh, where's his parents? Like, he's an orphan. So he sees them as just a loner. And remember, Daryl, he lost his parents and he was pretty much raised by his brother. And so I think it's one of those things. And who knows? There could be, if we really want to go deep into this mindset, it could be that he feels some guilt of what happened with Judith. I mean, not Judith, with Carol's daughter that passed. Oh, man. Sophia. And maybe he's feeling some guilt of not playing a bigger part in helping find, because remember, that was his job to go find. He's like, I'm going to find her. Well, we found her in the wrong way. And there was a great line, and it's best to bring it up now in this segment, when he was talking to Ash, and he understood that Ash was upset and probably still upset with Carol lying and stuff. He's like, hey, but you still have a chance of saving a kid. Here's the boy. So I mean, and then there you go. So I was like, okay. So I think a lot of that played into it, and it's also the way Daryl made I should say the feelings that he had for Isabel, and he kept saying, hey, I'm going to get you guys out. And that was her dying wish right there. Like, just make sure you take care of this kid, and even though it's not biologically his child, it might as well be his adopted son, because they're not going to fill out any paperwork. He has no extended family waiting for him, Laurent. So this is it. And he's close with him, teach him how to play baseball, right? The old school father-son thing to do. So I think, he puts himself in that role. And so I guess that's what they were really trying to pull here with the feels. But it's probably just because the show only has 6 episodes and not a traditional long format of a series, so that way we could have more storytelling, have some more one-on-one, maybe episodes dedicated to them on their journey. Maybe they had to go affect somebody or do something, or something happened, and they just spend more time together alone, and just the Ellie Joel situation, right? That's what made it so strong, is that they spend so much time together, that bond, same situation, not father daughter, but as time goes on, that bond gets stronger, and they both need each other for different reasons. And so that's what I get they were trying to pull off here. And who knows, maybe for the listeners and the viewers out there, you're wiping a tear. I'm like, Adam, you're all wrong. It got me hard. I had to stop the episode and go cry in the bathroom for a little bit. Who knows? I don't know. It didn't do it for me. But let's move on. All right, we'll jump a little bit to our boy Graybeard, because we were talking about him with One Eye Willie and Graybeard's new girlfriend, who's also, she's always been in the background. She's part of the resistance. She's in the crew, but we see that she's got a little more of an interest, with this situation, especially with Graybeard. She's on her own journey looking for her sister, so she's still there with them. But you see them there looking for supplies and some other stuff, those three, and they come across some other soldiers. long story short, we know that those soldiers are now part of the greater good of the bad guys, that they regrouped after all this, and they are still hunting down for Laurent, and they know where they're at. They know where they're going. They know about the plane and all that stuff. So Greybeard's like, oh, we got to warn our friends, right? We got to go and get this show on the road. We get back to where Ash and everyone at the helicopter, well, the plane are. It's over at the racetrack area. And as they're exploring, we have Daryl and Ash exploring around. I still not too sure what they were doing. I think they were just looking for more hoses, right? They kept talking about looking for them hose, right? Because the whole point is that Ash was like, hey, we don't want to make any more pit stops. And Daryl's like, yeah, I heard about that pit stop. It's kind of funny, because the whole situation that happened there. But as they're looking around from hoses, there's some walkers down there. They see some, they close the gate. They're like, oh, we can't go down that way, right? And they leave it. But then the most notable part, I should say, from that whole segment was two things. One, the location and closing the gate. That plays a part later on. And then that little heart-to-heart that I just mentioned of Daryl just telling Ash, hey, you have a chance to save another child. We understand. I get she lied to you and all that stuff. It was tough for her dealing with the loss of her child. And, Daryl comes, yeah, I didn't have any, I didn't lose anything. But what's funny? And it's like, there's two points, two moments in which Daryl could have talked about great loss to himself, and that was Merle when he lost his brother. He could have brought it up here because he was like, when Ash like, did you lose a child? Do you have a child? And no, the only person who lost I really loved my brother. No, he doesn't do it. And then later on when he's talking to One Eye Willie, he doesn't do it. Yeah, and it makes me wonder, is there some kind of like, is the show trying to wash that away? Wash it from our minds, because as we know, when we start thinking about Merle, the brother, then we're brought back to with Daryl, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, they were both pricks. They were not supposed to be good guys. Daryl should not be the hero of this show. Maybe that's why they don't want to do it. We did not get any flashbacks with the brother. We thought we were going to get it, right? During that, when we get to it, the ending sequence where everybody's seeing flashback stuff, and no, it didn't come up. So what did you guys think of all that interaction and then bringing that up and then just not going there where,
I disagree.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, if they have any chance to put in a character that's been in Guardians of the Galaxy, you're going to do it. So I don't agree with that.
So you think it's an actor's choice? Like, don't bring me up because then you're going to want to do a flashback and I'm not coming back to this show. I don't.
No, I feel like the reason why it's not mentioned, and maybe this is just me thinking what their explanation would be. It's like Daryl is a lot more closed off. He doesn't really explain himself.
Yeah, so that's it. So he's a man of few words. So he doesn't really care to go deep. He's not a deep. I can see that. Rich, you got anything you want to say? We'll just move on.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that actor to return. He's on to other projects. I will say it would have been an opportunity to talk to. I believe his name is. Well, we call him One Eye Willie.
Yeah,
but
he
does have a name. I think it's Conrad or something like that.
I don't want to. People, I'm not doing that disrespect. I just don't want to butcher these French names. So that's.
I understand that. Yeah. But I think that it would have been an opportunity to talk specifically about the fact that he did have to take out his brother, because if I recall correctly, didn't that character also have to take out his brother?
Daryl. When Merle turned, and then he had that whole thing. And that's the thing. I'm not saying that we bring him back for this. No need, but just mention it. Mention the story. Just for the long term. It's a little nod to the viewers, which I doubt anybody's just brand new watching Daryl Dixon, but just a nod for those long term fans and listeners that were like us, that we know that story, we know how it started, how it ended, and just bringing up like, I had a brother. That's it. Boom. That's it. But no, he gives like a blank look, like, I don't know. I never really lost anybody I cared about, But whatever. It is what it is. It gets the point across. And the point was for Ash to just wake up to see the greater good and the purpose right now, and it's to save someone, and not just save Carol to get her back, because that wouldn't solve anything. But hey, they're saving the child. Now the only question I had here, and I'm sure there's listeners and viewers saying that if Ash likes to ask all these questions, how come he's not asking the one real serious question? Is, okay, you said that this kid's an orphan. Did you kill his parents? Or is this a kidnapping operation? Who's after us? What's going on with this? No, he doesn't ask all those questions, because
is this Sophia?
Right, Tokyo. Yeah, I mean, these are logical questions right here. I would assume that anyone listening and watching this, if you were in Ash's situation here, and you see this guy show up with this kid, yeah, the kid is not a super minor. I mean, he can speak for himself. I would think if he was under duress or something, he would just, start screaming out, "Help me! Help! They're kidnapping me! They're trying to bring me to America." No, but still, just ask a little more questions about that. But he doesn't. He doesn't care. And maybe because Laurent doesn't really seem that stressed out, and it's like, "Hey, yeah, let's go. I'm down." So maybe that's it. I don't know, but. That was my one gripe with that. I'm not looking for gripes to nitpick. There was a lot good with this episode, but let's just get into some good that happened here. A lot of craziness. So we see that the now leader of this evil military group, right, the assistant who's now running the show, she's with she had made that deal with the club owner from the bunker. It's like, all right, the plan is you get the plane, but we get the boy, because we still believe all that nonsense that they believe. So as they head over to the location, now we see that they're walking through that tunnel area to get to the field, which is similar with actually the same exact tunnel that Ash and Daryl were just in, and we see the closed gate, but they're coming from the other end. And as they're going through, sure enough, Walker gets up, more walkers, all hell breaks loose. And this is where the show is like looking at the watch. All right, this is when we clean house. This is the housekeeping right here, this segment, because everybody starts getting bit. We saw there was another sort of strong general, I would say. She was the one with the cap on, the shorter woman. She played bit parts in certain episodes, but she gets bit. We see a bunch of the soldiers get bit. We then see that the new person in charge of the resistance, not the resistance, of that militant group, she gets behind the gate. She finally breaks through, and then she closes it, and the bunker lady is left behind with her assistant and everything. It was like, oh, well, this is how it ends, and chomp, 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 chomp. Right? So there goes that. Now, I guess that club it's going to be under new management. I'm sure it's going to be the bartender who's going to take over, because that's how things just roll, right? There's no second in command in any of these departments. So just let him take over from there. But man, this was shocking. Really shocking. They did a lot of character development with that character, the club owner, even leading into this segment. They did do a little callback where she sees a picture of the Eiffel Tower and she remembers Laurent having that little heart-to-heart talking about how he wants to go there one day or whatever it was. Remember, he had the little charm that she had given him. And just to see her, this is where she dies. And that was it. It was shocking. I wasn't expecting that, and it was cool. I enjoyed it. What about you guys? What did you think of that?
Well, actually, I was expecting it, because it felt like the other character, her motivation was to get Laurent. And if it meant that she was going to work with this woman temporarily, she would. But she eventually, I feel, would have taken her out, even if she did agree to go the whole way through with the plan. But I do like the fact that, the club owner, that character definitely went on a lot of development, because if you recall last season, she didn't really care anything about Laurent. She was obviously felt a certain type of way that her man at the time had a past with Isabel, and she had so many questions, but she didn't want the responsibility of having to care for or watch over Laurent. So for her to care in the very end, and the fact that he was finally able to escape, and then for her to basically stop that from happening or prevent them from getting to them, delay the process, I think that was great. So I do agree that was a great point. But I definitely expected her to get taken out, because They made it very clear they wanted to clean house with a lot of characters.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much her choice. But I thought that because of the pattern of this show of just switching from big bad, all right, you're the boss, that she was going to do the reverse, close the door, lock her down, and like, remember, I just want the plane. I don't care, and I'm not letting take off. And like you said, she cares about the kid. She knows what these people want to do with this kid. So that's why I was thinking that she was going to then be the big bad in a way and have her people, or maybe convince other people, come on, let's get this plane. We can branch out to others. Who knows? I don't know. I feel like the soldiers and all that, they'll follow anybody who says they're the leader. That's it. You raise your hand. I'm the leader. All right. I follow you everywhere. I don't know, because they don't have a voice. And that's the issue with this show, right? There was no second in command, no third, and all that stuff. But whatever, it happens. So while that's going on, Graybeard and One Eye Willie and Graybeard's soon-to-be girlfriend, they make it to the hangar to let everybody know, hey, get ready. This is it. They're en route. These guys are coming. They're close. They regrouped. Just filling them in on all the stuff that they've just discovered. And so they're like, all right, well, we gotta get ready to take off. We're leaving. And so here comes the big action scene, right? We got a lot going on. It reminded me of an episode of the A-Team, because we had cars flipping. We had guys on motorcycles doing big jumps. We had a helicopter going off. We had people sniping and shooting, all kinds of crazy action. You got Daryl, not with the crossbow, but now with his scope, just sniping, boom, boom, he's picking them off. They threw in some tension. I think that was really cool with, not just when missing the shot, but when he went to take a shot and didn't have a bullet in the round. It's like, oh man, I got to reload. And it's like, oh, is this going to happen? Is the plane going to be able to take off? Ash is getting all paranoid, because there's a lot of action going on, shooting and dying and, you name it, everything is happening. There was that one scene with a motorcycle with an Uzi. Luckily he's a horrible shot, because he's just spraying in the direction of this plane and missing horribly. He missed all his shots, but Daryl only had to miss one shot. He missed one shot. Second shot, popped him. Off he goes. But no, there's still more going on, and he couldn't get. Remember, they had some guys sniping. What's gonna happen? The person that was shooting at Daryl, he gets taken out. They're like, wow, that happened. There was a truck that's up on the runway that looked like it was going to just play chicken with Ash. But hey, he takes off. He's okay. Who did all this? Well, we see Carol stayed behind. And that was at least my prediction when we talked about the outcome. Who's staying, right? I figured it only made sense that both of them stay, because then this is the show. This was originally the idea from what we were told many, many moons ago about this spinoff, the Daryl and Carol show, right? And then there was COVID and all that, and the Melissa McBride, the actress plays Carol, just wasn't up to doing overseas filming at the time. And it was like, oh, she's out of the show. She's out of no. She just didn't want to go. She made it clear. Doesn't hate the brand. Didn't want to. She just was not the right time. Understandable. The world was going to poop at the time. So yeah, not really looking forward to doing that. But once they announced, once we saw last season and she popped up, I knew that this wasn't going to be a one and done. Right? There's no one and done with this. And she was going to be back, and they were going to go back onto the original idea of the Daryl and Carol show. And sure enough, she's there. So that means it was just Laurent and Ash. Hopefully, I know they showed it on the map and they tried to do this really quick in the hangar, because remember, Ash doesn't know where the Commonwealth is. That's where they're going. But he's never been there. So hopefully they have a place for him to land, right? That's all we could hope for. So what did you guys think of all that action? There was a lot of action, a lot of shooting, might as well mention it because it happened very quick, but the assistant that was in charge of this military group that we kept talking about was like, you're not a real boss. You're not a real boss. Well, she's also not really religious, because she committed suicide. She shot herself. She was like, oh, I lost the boy. Mission failure. And that's it. She does herself in, so now she can't go to heaven. Womp womp for her. What did you guys think of all this action? Because this was a lot.
I felt like this was a really, really well done scene. The only I'll start with the shooting. The Daryl's camp shooting. It was pretty well done. The fact, the suspense with the plane and the dude with the motorcycle and taking by, all of that was really well done. The only thing that I'm like kind of surprised, I'm like, I understand why Ash didn't know Carol was gone, but was Laurent also surprised that Carol was gone? I mean, he had a front view seat of.
I think they talked about it. It's one of those things like from Fear, where we have to assume all these discussions happened off camera, and I have a feeling that once they were leaving the hangar, that Daryl didn't know. He's the one that didn't know, but I'm pretty sure Ash and Laurent knew, because when they kept showing the cockpit, they would show Ash and they would show Laurent, but they didn't show Carol.
Yeah,
there.
They never showed Carol.
They never showed her. So I think they knew that she had bailed out and she was going to help, because there's no way she traveled to France just to bring back a little French boy. No, she came back to bring Daryl. That's her friend. So
yeah, so not surprised by that as well, because I couldn't see all of this happening just so Daryl and Carol can be separated again, and then being like, oh, well, here's Daryl season 3. Daryl's on his own again. I just couldn't see that.
Yeah, that's going to be a taxi between the U.S. and France. He's like, all right, we dropped off the boy. You want to go back to France and go get Carol? Come on, let's go. No, I agree.
They weren't going to do that whole. Yeah, they weren't going to do Carol's going to come back for Daryl or for Daryl again. So I like the way that they resolved that. As far as what happens with Laurent and Ash, I wouldn't be too surprised if they didn't go back to the States. Maybe they go to Greenland to refuel or something. I don't know.
Well, they got yeah. Did they find all the hoses that they need? I don't know. No, because that was
they did, because the plane works.
No, it wasn't that though. He said it was to connect to extra fuel lines or whatever it was, so that way they wouldn't have to make a pit stop. It was to avoid the pit. Yeah, that's because he was saying, he's like, this is it. And then that's when he said, oh, well, what happened in Greenland when we did that. He was like, oh, yeah, I heard about that. So this was to avoid. Hopefully they did. And if that's the case, and if you remember, for those, if you watch on AMC Plus, you get a little extra. And at the end, you had the showrunner talking about this, and sort of hinted, like, for now, this is the end of Laurent. He didn't say that's it of the character, goodbye, he's going to go do TV, movie, whatever. So I'm assuming that they have somewhere in the back of their minds a long goal, a long-term plan to reunite the two at some point. And maybe when Daryl and Carol eventually do make it back to the States, which I'm assuming that will be the end game whenever it does happen, they do make it back, and we will see Laurent pop up with Ash over at the Commonwealth. But
I wouldn't be surprised, and this is just a prediction. The next step is the UK in London, or probably London or somewhere in England, where the next season is going to take place. I wouldn't be surprised if Ash and Laurent sort of never left to the States. They kind of went somewhere else to make a pit stop, and then they somehow find a way to pick them up.
I would only agree with that if it was a Carol situation. Like meaning, like the Carol, the Melissa McBride had mentioned in the post in this one, she was supposed to die in season 4. That they made the death mask, all the stuff, and that came up because of what happens when we get to the ending of this episode. So they were already prepping, and then she became a fan favorite. People loved that there was this mom who was in an abusive relationship, and she stood tall, stood her ground, did a bunch of stuff, and became the badass that she is. And so because of that, they decided to flip the script and just rewrite her story and give her a permanent role. And here she is till this day, over 12 years later. So unless there's an outcry of people that want to see this kid on their Walking Dead TV programming shows, I don't see it happening. I don't think Ash spent enough time on screen to develop that connection with the audience. So unless the boy has somehow pulled like an Urkel situation where everybody needs to see him and he has to be part of everything, even though he's not the main character, I don't see them going there. I think this is one of those And I brought it up like an A-team situation. You go in, there were some people in need, you help them out, you move on, you find a whole new set of people to help and stuff, and then you move on and so on and so forth. So I don't know, unless you think that he was strong enough of a character that people will want to see him. I don't see them bringing him back. I mean, Rich, you see that?
Bringing back which character?
Laurent, like, because Carlos is thinking that you think he'll be back in next season. You think they'll?
Yeah. Well, they said at the end, the directors, and they said it when in the post show that he's gone for now. So I do feel that character will make a return at some point. And the other thing is this, you made the comment earlier that we didn't get an answer to why this character is so special. I still think we're going to get that answer, but it's possibly going to be another spinoff show, The Walking Dead, The Chosen One, or something like that, whenever he finally transitions to
the Commonwealth. Whoa, you really put a lot of faith in this kid, just like those cult people. You think he's strong enough to have his own show with Ash as his second?
Oh no! I mean, they will be a part of whatever the next spinoff is. If they have a spinoff at the Commonwealth or whatever, they'll be in that show. But I kind of feel like we're going to see that kid again. I mean, unless they have to have a long-term plan for those characters.
I'm thinking, and this is what I was just saying. I'm thinking that if we do see him again, it'll be similar to like The Ones Who Live, with Michonne and Rick, and when they showed up with RJ and Juice, that running to each other and hugging.
Yeah.
That's what I'm assuming. Whenever Daryl and Carol make it back is when we see that Laurent made it. I mean, it'd be really funny if they do make it back to the States, Daryl and Carol, and it's like, where's Ash and Laurent? And they're like, who? What? No plane ever arrived. Oh no, they crashed. That would be like they didn't make it. Oh, that would be, dun dun dun. Welcome to The Walking Dead, where anything horrible should and will happen.
Yeah, but you see, that pretty much confirms though the fact that he was able to get away. We will eventually see some reunion, just like you said. In the ones who live, we saw a reunion. Rick and Michonne, and then they reunite with their kids. So we're definitely going to see a reunion. And I do believe by the time that Daryl and Carol get back, Rick will be there. So it'll be a lot of reunions, a lot of heartfelt moments.
It's a great little segue here, because there was another heartfelt moment, because then we see Graybeard, and he's with his Archer friend who's part of the group, and she starts giving him the smoochies. She likes him. She wants to be with him. She wants to keep, staying with him. She can't leave on the journey because he wants to go and help Daryl and Carol go home. That's the plan, right? He's going to him. We also got the One-Eye Willie, and then they also talk about the Scottish couple that they're friends with, which I don't even want to. I'm going to get into that when we get into that, because I have a lot of questions with that whole situation. But the point is that we see that she has more feelings for him than just say we're good friends, and she wants to stick around with him. She wants him to stick around. And so he does. Later on, we see when everybody's walking to the tunnel, which is the tunnel under the canal. That's the English canal that go to England, because they figure, hey, things are a little better over there. Maybe there'll be another way to get on a boat that can take him to the States and the whole thing. But the point I just want to get here is that Graybeard does stay behind. He does survive. Right, so he survives. He's not dealing with conflict. He's going to have a happy ending right now, as from what we know. He's just going to go run around with this girl and help her find her sister, right? Still in France, and we'll see. I think we will see those two again at some point. I think just the fact that they left it open like that, and that was great. They're not in danger. They are not settling down somewhere. So it's like, hey, come visit us when you come back. No. They're on their own adventure together. That is great. When you talked about spinoffs, I could see that spinoff. I could see Graybeard. I think he would need more development. Maybe throw some other things around him, but I don't know. Maybe it's his voice, that deepness in his tone, his face. But it worked. That actor, all that worked for me, and I could definitely see him. When we talk about bosses and big bosses and whatever, and they throw actors in whatever roles, he comes off very believable in that role, and I could definitely see him doing something else. But anyway, it's just that he has a happy ending to what we were talking about, if there's any happy points. But this is the issue, and I need to get your thoughts on this. Because he does a little handoff. He says, hey, we have some people that are going to help us, right? They're Scottish. It's a married couple, and they're going to help us get to the other end through the tunnel, right? It's like, oh, okay, because there's like checkpoints or whatever, right? It's like, what, 50 miles under. So we see them, the group are all in front of the tunnel, right? Did the married couple not come out of that tunnel? Rich, Carlos, anybody? Did we see that? Did the married couple come out of that tunnel when when Greybeard opened up the trunk and it showed like food and wine and stuff? And I'm like, oh yeah, this is what they were going to use to bribe the British soldiers that were at the checkpoint under the tunnel. We saw them come out of the tunnel, right?
You saw what come out of the tunnel?
The married couple, the Scottish couple.
Daryl killed him.
No. When they first met.
They met them at the base that they were at, so we didn't know exactly if they came from there or anything like that, because they came directly to where everybody else was at, and then that's when they.
All right, because that's what I was confused, because he says, "Oh yeah, they're gonna help you on the journey, the Scottish whole thing," and so when he popped the trunk and he showed the supplies and stuff, so I was assuming that they were like that was their new role. They're like not traffickers, but like the escorts. They were going to bring people and help them go through the checkpoints. They vouch, that type of thing. Because they made it seem like, oh well, they gave a quick backstory with them. They were in love. They went to France to get married, all that stuff, and then they got married. Then they went to France, city of love, and everything went to poop. They never really got to experience France in all its beauty, and that's when Greybeard says it was. He gives his sad story of his neighbor. This is what I was talking about, some filler. This is something they should have brought up way earlier when they introduced the character, but we get it now. About him and his family, next door neighbor who's a racist. 1 minute something happens to the kid, he helps the kid, and the guy just gives him a little side eye, like, all right, whatever, thanks, but whatever. It wasn't needed, at least not at this point. That should have been brought up later on. I mean, earlier on in the show, but whatever. But that's what I was just trying to figure out, their role, because as we see, they weren't involved in any of the fighting. They weren't at the Resistance HQ, or we would have saw them with all the fighting that happened at that location. So for this married couple to pop up all happy-go-lucky, like nothing, they said everything's gone bad for them, but they don't look like they're stressed out or anything. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, we're just gonna walk under there, and there's a checkpoint, and yeah, we'll give them some stuff, and then we get through. So I figured that was their role, and that they had just came from there, because we had not seen them any of the other locations or any other episodes. So I don't know, but let's just get into it. This is it. This was the ending, because we knew something had to happen, right? Something had to happen. The show could have ended with that helicopter flying off. I mean, the plane flying off, and Daryl kind of was like, well, we're going to go through this tunnel with these new friends, and we'll see what happens and see if we make it. And yeah, I didn't go into, because there was another little fluff piece with One Eye Willie eventually finding out from Daryl that he did not kill the brother, because it looks like for a long time, right? That was the argument. It was like, well, he's a good guy now, but does he still blame Daryl? And he does. He still blamed him, but he was like, my brother was doing some bad stuff. I guess I understand it. It hurt me killing him, but how did you feel killing him? He's like, I didn't kill your brother. Some skinny girl with an old man who thought he was blind. Yeah, he goes in the thing, and that guy was like so destroyed, like, oh, everything that happened to me, all this, it was from a lie. And I was like, well, she was a good liar. And that was almost like a comical moment right there too. It's like womp womp. And it's like, yeah, this whole time you thought something which was totally wrong, and this is the one time you bring it up. You could have asked them earlier on about this, and Daryl could have spoken up earlier too. There was a few times in other episodes where in the first season they had those interactions, and he could have said, you come out, I didn't kill your brother, skinny girl. Would he have believed him then? Probably not. He's a foreigner and all that, but who knows?
he's the one that kicked everything off.
Yeah,
He's the one that invaded the chapel.
all of it. All of it. That's what I'm saying. It's like if that one lie, see, that's the the butterfly effect, everything. If that didn't happen, then this whole show probably wouldn't have happened because it wouldn't have caused all that conflict. The guy wouldn't have went with the other military group and tried, like you said, to the monastery, the boy, and all. It unravels everything and breaks it up. But anyway, we see that they're there with the couple. They're all going through this tunnel. Now, again, we don't know where they were before this. That's why I asked you guys, but it looks like we all don't know really where they were. They were at some base somewhere, happy, not dealing with any of the stresses that everybody else was dealing with. So now they're going through this tunnel. They're talking about things. It brings back a lot of vibes of 28 Days Later for me. Because I remember, if you remember that movie where they were all driving in the car and they had to get through a tunnel and it was just blocked with cars. So like, well, we'll have to move some things away and then we'll have to go through. But anything could be there, that type of thing. They weren't too worried about it, though. And this is why, again, I thought that this married couple must have just come through because they said, well, there's a checkpoint up ahead and this whole thing. But whatever. As they're getting through, though, they start seeing all these glowies, right? And this is new to us. So we know there's mutated walkers. We saw some of the runners. We saw some of the other psycho ones in the last episode. But this is something different we haven't seen. And it seems like this is normal to see, at least to that married couple, because they said, oh, yeah, just like Firefly, other things, they produce a glow, these walkers here. Well, between that, bat feces and some other stuff, there's toxins in the air that's causing delirium, right? People getting delirious, they're seeing things, they're going crazy, they start acting weird. And top that, there are walkers that are active there because as they get to what they weren't supposed to be there, but a checkpoint that was for a British checkpoint that was there, and they're all converted. They're all walkers, and they died. Something happened to them, but then was it Daryl noticed there was like gunshots? It was like they shot each other. It was like there's not bites. It was like they were killing each other. What could have happened? And then that's when the couple was like, oh, it could be some delirium or something going on here. Well, when was the last time you were there? Then I don't know because a lot of stuff looks very old. A lot of the bodies and stuff. So clearly this has happened here a long time ago. So that's why I don't know if it was rushed with the whole Scottish couple to throw them in to say, all right, we got to figure out a way to explain how Daryl and Carol get over there. I don't think they were needed, honestly.
Yeah, maybe this is something that could be resolved after a rewatch because I'm similar to you, and maybe Rich understands differently, but I don't remember them saying how long it's been since they crossed from that checkpoint. Because when you look at that scene, it looks like it's been, I don't know, maybe months.
Yeah, it was horrible. There was a bunch of bodies everywhere and all this stuff, and it looked like it's been a while. But the fact that at the beginning when they were introduced, and it was like, all right, you got the wine and this, the food, all right, good. This will be good for giving to the soldiers, which would imply that they've done this before. That this is something they do. How else would you know to do that? How else that's even going to work? Why put your life at risk for strangers to bring them to England unless you know that there is something that is possible to do because you've experienced this? And that's why it's like, I didn't really get into it. But anyway, delirium happens. Everyone's seeing weird things. Carol gets in her craziness. She starts seeing some of herself as a walker. She's seeing oh man, I keep blanking on I keep wanting to say Judith. It's not Judith. Sophia. Holy moly. She keeps seeing Sophia everywhere. Now we know throughout this whole season that's been a big part of, every time she would see a barn, she's seeing Sophia, she's hearing it, she's thinking of it. It's haunting her. and it's coming up here. Where One Eye Willie now sees his brother, but then he sees Daryl, and then he's like, "You killed my brother," and then now they're fighting. Right? It's like, what is happening? And Daryl is seeing stuff. He's seeing, okay, we don't see Merle. He's not seeing his brother. He's seeing other things, and we'll get into a little more what he sees. And then the married couple, they go running off. And this is why I wasn't sure if this was a trap, because they then grab two masks and they're like, sorry, they start beating on Daryl when he goes into that little area that they're in. Start beating on him. It's like, sorry, brother, there's only two masks. Did you just find two masks, or you knew there was only two masks and this was a way to kill all of them and rob them?
Well, they did have a scene before when they first got to that checkpoint, and the guy turned the lights on, and Daryl went into that room and saw that there were two masks hidden, that the blanket was over. So clearly, everybody knew those masks were there. But that's why I say, if it was a trap, it's interesting that that couple wouldn't have already had some masks that they had concealed. If they had those two masks, or they already had masks and everybody else wasn't prepared, and they didn't tell them anything about you need a mask.
Yeah, so, seeing everybody getting all delirious, and then you turn to them and you see they're already wearing masks.
Exactly. Yeah, like, exactly. Then it would definitely be a trap. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So there goes that. We could scratch that one off. It just doesn't make sense that they were unaware of all of this, because, like we mentioned, it looks like all this stuff has been there for a long time. It's not instant. So everyone's seeing weird things and craziness is happening. Eventually, One Eye Willie stops fighting with Daryl, so it's freaking out and just takes off running. He goes off. Daryl is looking around for Carol, and he finds Carol. And wait. I'm trying to remember. No, this is it. Back at Carol, because it was doing a lot of weird jumps with all of this. We get back with Daryl. Daryl's on the ground, and now he starts hallucinating and seeing someone, and he sees Isabel. And this is pretty long. This was pretty long. I feel it was a little bit too long, of the slow motion of her walking, saying this is not where you die, and you have to go on. A whole motivational speech type of thing from beyond. But he gets up, he fights, all right, and he kills them. He kills the couple. That's it, to take the mask. And now he's looking for Carol, and then we see that Carol is in her own little fever dream over there, and this is the thing that I wasn't too sure about. I mean, I knew she was going to die, but we see that she sees what looks like Sophia alone, and then there's a bunch of walkers with her. She then puts her light down, boom, 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 kills them all. But then we see another version of Sophia walk, and this one she hugs. And I was like, oh, is she going to get? I doubt it, but it would have been a real shocker if something would have happened here. But so I'm assuming that's in her brain. She did not actually hug, because even if she was to hug a walker, that walker would bite her, right? But you see her, she hugs, and then the walker just walks off and just leaves her, because she was like, I want to come with you. And it's like, I mean, I really, Carol, if you wanted to come with her, you could have died a few minutes ago. You could have just let it happen and just move on. But whatever. It is what it is. So Daryl's looking around. He sees her. He gives her the mask, the whole thing. Then it's like, all right, we got to go. Let's go home. Let's get out. Where's the other dude? It's like, I don't know. He went running. He took off. We'll see if he even makes it out. And that's it. Show is over. The ending is just those two together again, just continuing to walk through this tunnel to get to England. I don't know. Like I said, I thought it was cool, but they're throwing stuff that the whole new glowy element. I felt like that should have been brought up earlier, because then now it brings a lot of other questions. Is that part of the mutant shot, or is that something naturally happening to them? They said that it had something to do with the bats' feces and stuff like that, but that still doesn't make sense with all that. The married couple and how that whole thing panned out, because we got a lot of time. I mean, they gave them some time to give their backstory. I don't see why that was important, because they sort of were just trying to survive for themselves if they didn't have an alternate motive, and Daryl just straight up killed them. So do we see him as a bad guy? Like he doesn't care as long as it's about him surviving and Carol? Because remember that I remember hearing them saying we have people waiting for us back home. Remember that, like the wife or something said that you could hear while he was in his fever dream on the ground. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but it doesn't matter because you're dead. He took the mask. So, all right, that was a lot. What did you guys think of all of that and how this panned out and how it ended?
So let me start by saying, I think the whole point of them having all of that stuff happening in the tunnel is to say it is pretty much they're going into unknown territory. And by the end of this episode, they don't know what's on the other end of this tunnel. I think the people that are waiting for that couple still could show up. And by the time they get there, we don't know if they're there waiting at the end of the tunnel for them to show up. And they see that these people show up instead. They may have questions about, oh, well, do you know these other people that came through? I mean, there's a lot of things that are unknown. I'm also sure that there's going to be some more walkers in the future that we'll definitely see, because again, they did allude to the fact that it's not as bad where they're going in Europe, but there still has to be some challenges there, whether it's new adversaries or new obstacles for them to deal with. So I am looking forward to seeing where they're going with this. But as for the critiques about the scene with Carol, I had some issues with that because clearly to me, this was her basically, she had a conversation with Sophia and she thought it was her time. And Sophia was, said no, backed off and started walking away. And I understand that. But right before that scene, you see Carol is struggling with this zombie, with this walker is she going to kill her or not? And then it's like the walker is completely gone. I would have liked to have seen after she had that moment with Sophia, then you see her once again struggling with that walker, and then she just gets rid of the walker. I think that would have made more sense because it was very confusing to see her struggling with that. And obviously I know what they were trying to say because the walker was her. She's struggling. Does she want to basically go and be with her daughter, or does she want to keep fighting for her daughter? I kind of felt they could have explained that a little bit better. But otherwise, it was very crazy. So I guess
you just bring up something I just thought about. Like, what if there were no walkers? Huh? What if if there was just the hallucinating? Because remember, One Eye started seeing his brother, and then he started seeing Daryl. And seeing him one and the same. What if that's it? They started kicking in and everybody just started looking like they were walkers all around them, and they're just swinging weapons around and there's no one there. That would explain Carol hugging a walker, not getting bit, because there was never a walker to begin with.
It's possible. I mean, I saw them. They were killing some of those.
So they were
walkers. I assume it was all that was real. It's just that it's kind of like in those situations, there probably should have been some casualties, because no way you going to have all this stuff going on and then somebody doesn't get bit. I kind of think that's a little unrealistic, but the whole point was to make it very crazy. And I think that's what they intended to do with that entire sequence. But that's just my thoughts.
Carlos.
Yeah, I feel like I like this scene. There were some sketchy moments, but I will say overall I like the scene because it gave this show another feeling. It gave us a little bit of uncertainty that sometimes shows like these don't really give us. It's more sort of straightforward and sort of predictable. This one wasn't. I actually thought, was Carol gonna bite the bucket? Like even though I didn't think so, it still kind of crept in that thought. I felt like it was done well. I don't know where the hell One-Eyed Willie went, but he's not dead. So
no, he's not
we'll see what happens. I don't know what this hallucination is, whether it's the bats. I don't know if it's a reference to something we went over a couple of years ago around the world. I don't have no clue. I don't know what's going on with that hallucination thing. I like the glow in the dark walkers. I thought they were done pretty well, and I'm looking forward to see what goes on. It's a new season, new country now. We're gonna cross the English Channel. We're gonna be in England. Shout out to Gary. Shout out to Brian. Maybe make cameos over there. We'll
there
see.
You go. They pop up as walkers in the background. You know. Oh, man, it's. Oh yeah. I mean, another thing that we didn't see is remember there was a crazy doctor that was part of that military group that was doing the injections, and we didn't see him die. They didn't really talk to him much, but we know that there was a doctor doing the experiments, and he was the one that was making that serum that was mutating them. So what happens with that? Is that all done? Was that just a France problem? You know what I mean? I was really thinking, and I brought this up in the last episode, that we were going to see like a Jurassic Park situation of some of that serum just cracking and ending up in the water supply and just mutating all the dead walkers that are around it, and as the water just flows through them and then just animates them, or see regular people drinking it. But as you know, regular people meaning people that are alive, if they get injected, that they die. So you would have to be a walker. But the point is, we didn't see that leave France. I thought that was going to play out here at some point when we saw these glowing walkers, and that maybe this is how those soldiers died, that they got into a fight with that military group, and maybe that scientist was there. Maybe he saw the writing was on the wall after Janae died and was like, I need to leave, and he was trying to steal some of that stuff or bring some of that stuff that he created. He died, it falls on the ground, whatever, cracks, poisons people, the dead walker, I don't know, spreads there. And who knows, it could still happen that when they get across, we see there was a bunch of infected running walkers that actually ran all 50 miles. I don't know. But it's like they opened that door up and then they left it open, for us, the viewers, to figure out like, well, are we going to keep seeing mutated walkers? Are you going to see, we don't, you know what I mean? It's like, that was a big part of the story, especially for the last episode. That was a big part of the survival for Daryl and Carol, if it wasn't for that mutant, which is serum, to cause them to go crazy and ravage and run around killing everything that moves, and to just leave it hanging there with no one concerned about it or wondering, well, at least I was hoping Greybeard would say, well, before I leave, I have to go and destroy all that, because we can't have that get in the wrong hands. Whatever they were doing, that would be horrible. He doesn't care. He's out with his new girlfriend to go find his sister. I don't know. We will see. So I'll just start with the ratings since I'm already talking with it. I'm going to give it an A. I'm going to give it an A. Like I just mentioned, the reason with some of the plot holes, no A+. But overall, they went all out with the sound design, the set design, the action sequences. Nothing felt half-assed. Everything felt quality. It wasn't like they were using a lot of stock footage from other stuff, the car flipping in the air that they use with a Tonka truck or something. No, they were doing a lot. They even said in the post, there was a real plane. There was a real plane that was on this, and a lot could have went wrong. But it took off. It was working. It did a lot. I like the sets. They all felt fresh and new, and rightfully so, because they are on location. They're not running around Georgia. And so, I liked it. I'm looking forward to it. As we know, there is a season 3. I don't know if that's already been filmed, but that was greenlit a while ago. We know it's happening. So that's where I'm ending with this, an A. In closing with it on my end, what I hope to get answers, right? That's all I want is answers. Eventually, not about how they make it to the States. They're going to make it somehow. But I want answers to that whole mutated thing. I was really looking forward to it going into this one, even from Walking Dead proper, when we started seeing them turning doorknobs and stuff, how that was happening. Is this just the dead can evolve? Is that what you're telling us in that? I don't know. Was this a one and done with the running and the mutated spray and all that and shots that we were getting in France? I don't know, but I hope those get answered. That's it. So A and more answers. All right, Rich, what about you?
I thought this was a really good episode. I would probably give it a B+. I would give the season as a whole a B+, because this is by far one of the better spinoffs that I have seen them make. And I will also give a shout out to AMC, because this year we only got 2 shows. They didn't try to cram in the Dead City show to also be this year. And I think that helps to have a nice little break in between these shows, just so that you have enough time to process and get excited for the next show. So great job as far as the season is concerned. I look forward to seeing what happens in season 3.
All right. Carlos?
Same as Rich for this episode, B+. Looks like we're in a consensus there. Maybe not as pleased with it as Adam is. The season as a whole, I would give it a B. I do also agree with Rich. This is by far probably the best season of a spin-off Walking Dead show. I mean, I think ever. I can't really think of anything. Maybe one of those seasons of Fear that were good.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think everything, World Beyond, Dead City, Tales of the Walking Dead, this far surpasses all of that. So yeah, I feel like a B is good for this season. Looking forward to see what happens in England, what they have over there. But hopefully they don't spend too much time in Europe. I don't want the next season after that to be now we're doing Germany, now we're doing
they are
or Italy.
I think they definitely are. Yeah, I know you don't think. I have a feeling if they go back to the States, what's there?
The Avengers.
The Avengers. There we go. But then they need a big villain. So
I mean, they need a big. I mean, if this show is tell you anything, they could just come up with a villain off the spot right away.
That's it. There's the next. Who's the villain now? I don't know. We found this guy in a house by himself, but I think he has some friends, and we'll just take them out because that was the whole thing with the ending of Fear. When they threw in that guy with the throwback. Remember, I thought I killed you. Well, no, I took a hammer to the head, but I didn't really die. Oh boy. But that was the whole thing also with the mothership. People were like, the governor's going to come back at some point. The original, patch-eyed governor. No, didn't happen. But yeah, I agree though. I think at some point they will probably do an Avengers type of thing where everybody gets together again. We got the Negan and Maggie, Carol, Daryl, Michonne, Rick. That's it. But they're not there yet. And I still think that we are going to get another spinoff. I don't know anything for a fact. This is just from the chattering that I see on the interwebs and how well this spinoff is doing, which is pretty well. And it makes sense. Yeah, it's overseas and all that stuff, but it's only 6 episodes. They're not doing this long form, so it's not costing as much to spread these things out. And it's working out. And if they continue in this form, which I think they are, Dead City is only going to be 6 episodes, then I wouldn't be surprised if we get another one, another spinoff. And it's the only point that pops up in my head, and so most people said, and we talk about, is a Commonwealth, right? Something has to happen in a Commonwealth, but it gets complicated because then you have Rick and Michonne, and do you do that? Do you continue that? Because from what I understand with the Rick and Michonne, that was a one and done. That was not meant to be a mini series, more like a movie. Because remember, they were originally going to make the Walking Dead movie. It was going to be 2 movies or something like that, and then COVID and all that, it didn't happen. So we got the show instead. I don't know, but we will wait and see, and at least we know it is coming back. So it's not like they walk through the tunnel and there you go, it's done, it's in canceled world. And no, it's coming back. When, we don't know. But what is coming back early next year is Dead City, and we will be back for that. So I am looking forward to see how that whole thing pans out. I'm not a fan of Maggie, but just like everybody here in the namesake of the show, we love Negan. We are Negan. So we are all for Negan on this. So Jeffrey D. Morgan, yeah, the man. Let's do it. All right, everybody. Thanks again for tuning in for the season over on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and all the other locations, and liking and subscribing. And if you want to comment, you comment. You don't, whatever. That's fine. But you're listening, and that matters. You guys care about not just this, but the show, Walking Dead Universe. It's a big part of our life, right? We love this show. All right, everybody. Since this is it, anything you want to say, Rich?
Oh, no. Thank everybody for their continued support. Dana actually posted a interview that she's done with the cast when she went to New York Comic Con. I think it was about a week or so ago. That's already on the channel, so definitely check that out, and I will leave a link to that in this video. But yeah.
Awesome. See, yeah, definitely do that. All right, Carlos? Nope, I think he already said it. That was it. All right, so everybody, thanks again for all this support. This has been great. You know, we enjoy doing this. We enjoy watching the show. It's a big part of us. You know, we love this universe, and that's it. Walking Dead. It's something about it. Is it perfect? No show is perfect. You know, can it be eye rolling at times? Of course, every show can. You know, but it is fun. It's entertaining, and the story is progressing. And here we are, Daryl and Carol in Europe. Go ahead, tell somebody who hasn't watched this show since Mothership that Daryl and Carol are still around and now traveling through Europe, you know, fighting walkers, trying to make it back to the States. It's funny. It's fun. All right, everybody. Thanks again. Talk to you guys when Dead City comes out. Peace.